Hi everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with my very first layout as part of the Cocoa Vanilla Studio design team for 2020. I'm super excited to be part of this team. It has been my dream to be part of this design team for quite a while now, so I'm super excited to be sharing this with you today. I'm going to be playing with the new collection by Cocoa Vanilla Studio called Legendary. It's a very outdoors adventure themed collection. And I'm going to be scrapping a photo of my little guy today, my little man. But first I'm going to do a bit of a mixed media background. Now, quite a few of the papers in the collection and the one I'm going to use in particular are a beautiful deep dark navy. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some white cardstock, I added some clear gesso, and now I'm adding some blue splatters. I did start with some watercolors. The darkest color in that palette isn't quite dark enough for me. It's more of a royal blue than a true navy. So as you can see there off to the side on the lower right, I have taken my Distress Oxide in Chip Sapphire, and that is a nice deep dark navy. So I've watered that down a little bit, and now I'm just splodging that all over this white cardstock. This is just going to form a layer of my background, so it doesn't have to be perfect. There you go, that's all dried. And this is the paper I'm going to be basing my layout on. It is called Explorer, and I'm using obviously the navy side with this mandala inspired design. So I'm taking my craft knife and I'm just carefully cutting this portion of the paper out, and I'm making sure that I don't cut right through to the edge of the paper because I want to save what is left for the border. So I'm going to border that white cardstock using this edge. So I'm just going to quickly trim off that branding strip before I forget, and then pop this piece of cardstock down that I prepared earlier. And we're just using a little bit of wet glue because the paper, it's not too warped. It's mixed media watercolor paper, so it is made to take liquid. It is just a little bit warped around the edges, so I find wet glue holds paper down a little bit better when it's warped like that. Okay, now I'm taking my little fussy cutting scissors and I am going to trim off the excess, and I'm just trimming all the way around to have that kind of starburst effect, I suppose. And I am going to speed this up so you don't have to sit through it. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm sure I will have a couple more subscribers this week because I am part of a new design team, and some of you may not have ever heard of me before. If you are new, I am very, very glad to have you. Please consider clicking that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And we have lots of fun over here on my channel. If you're returning, of course, as always, love you guys, love to have you here. So now I'm going in with my paper piercing tool and my little Amy Tangerine piercing mat, I suppose it's called, and I'm just piercing holes all the way around that central starburst pattern, and I will do the slightly larger starburst pattern as well. Taking some embroidery thread here, it's just white, I'm using all 6 strings, and I'm going to start to do a chain link stitch, and I will zoom in a second here and try to show you how I do this in a close-up. There are a couple of ways to do it. I do both ways depending on my mood, but this way I'm doing, you just do 1 stitch as per normal, then come back to the front from the next hole along, like you would as if you were going to do a back stitch, but instead of going back through that first hole, you go underneath that first loop. This might be a little bit nauseating, I do apologize. It's really difficult to hold the paper super still when you're this zoomed in. Once you've gone through underneath that first stitch, you are just going to come back down through that same hole, forming that little loop, which gives you that characteristic chain link stitch. And I am going out of frame a little bit. I'm sorry, it's just so hard to do when you're this zoomed in. It's really difficult. So I will show you one more stitch. Once you've done that, you just do exactly the same thing. Back through that next hole along, pull all the way through, and then slide your needle underneath that top loop, underneath both sections of that loop. So just straight underneath both threads, and then pull through. And this is a lot easier to do when you don't have, you know, a meter long thread like I do. I'm really lazy about having to change my thread, so I just have a really long really long thread. So there you go, and you just keep going like that until you reach the end. Now I tend to start again when I hit a sharp turn. So once I hit the bottom of those spikes, I will just do a single stitch at the top of that next line. It just kind of helps. Your stitches can go a little bit funny otherwise, but that's totally optional. So there we go, I am completely finished. I have just not stitched that section where my photo is going to go over, obviously. I don't want to, it takes a bit of time to hand stitch, and I don't want to waste my time sitting there stitching something that you will not see. So I did do my best to decide where my photo would go before I started stitching, and I sketched that out with a pencil. So now I'm just adding some adhesive foam. I'm making sure just to add this to the parts of my paper that don't have hand stitching. Because that stitching is quite dimensional, if you put foam on top of that, it will not be even. So just make sure to add your foam on just the flat parts. I'm just going to add a couple of simple mats to my photo. I'm going to use this paper first, which is called Wild One. My camera did cut out, unfortunately, but there you can see I've just added a thin border of that. And then this one is called Epic Tales, the yellow. I was going to use the orange, but I felt like it just wasn't providing enough contrast, so I switched it out for this one. I'm just distressing the edges of my photo mats with my scissors, just to give a little bit of extra interest. And then I'll do exactly the same thing, just simple photo layers, nothing crazy. I feel like the layout already has a lot going on with all the stitching and all the mixed media on the background, so just keeping this simple. I'm going to glue down my central element now because it's not going anywhere. I'm just adding some tacky glue to the back of my adhesive foam there. And I have gone ahead and adhered my photo to that background as well. So I'm just placing it so that my photo is at a slight angle. Now I'm taking the cardstock stickers and I'm going to add my date onto this label sticker. Just using a Pigma Micron pen there. Just slide that in. Perfect little spot. I'm going to add a few more of these little stickers as well. I like that Sweet As little banner, and I like this green little tab. Just want to bring in a little bit of colour. I did like this compass sticker. I liked how it echoed the circular element in the centre of that piece of paper, but I do end up moving that because it's going to be right where my title will go and you won't see it. So I pull out the die cut titles. I absolutely love these. There's so many words in here and it's super easy to build a title using them. So there we go. Title is done for me pretty much. I love this kit. So I've just pulled up that sticker and I'm just going to pop it in down at the bottom right corner of my photo there. A little bit of space, and that gives me a nice diagonal flow to the layout as well. I've pulled in the ephemera here and I've just added a little ticket at the top of my photo and a little star. I will come back in with some more stars in a minute, but first I'm going to pop up my title on some dimensional squares, just because again that stitching is dimensional, so I'm just adding the squares where there is no stitching to help everything stay flat. Now I'm back into the ephemera. I'm pulling out some of those stars. I'm choosing the coloured ones, again just for a little splash of colour, nothing too crazy. And I'm just going to add a little dot of glue to the center of those. I do want the edges to still lift up slightly and add a little dimension of their own, but I'm really liking how the stars echo that stitching pattern in the center. Back into the cardstock stickers. I love these tiny word stickers. I'm going to stick a couple on, one just at the bottom of my photo there, and then I will slide this one just in there, just sneaked it in. All right, now the clear stickers. I'm loving all the stars on these. I wish I had 100 more, but I do just take a couple of different sizes of these stars and layer them, again, following that diagonal pattern that I've got going on. And they show up so well on the white cardstock background. All right, and last little cardstock element is just this little die cut. It's from the die cut pack, a little arrow. Just wanted a little something more there. And now to finish off, I'm going to add some enamel dots. I do 3 groups of 3. I just alternate sizes and I use quite a few of the colors. And that's going to be my layout finished. Don't forget to go check out the Cocoa Vanilla Studio blog. I'm up on there today and the link will be in the description box. The close-ups are coming up very shortly. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed watching this process video and I will see you next time. Bye guys.